Good good afternoon, folks. I've got discussion C for you. Now we're discussing um, healthy checks across a lifetime. Now these are for different ages for elderly folks. So I'm going to go through those now in a presentation I made for you. Please enjoy. Your 20s are a decade defined by motion, new jobs, new cities, new relationships, new identities. Your body, meanwhile, is quietly at its peak. Organs are efficient, bones are dense, hormones are steady. You can pull an all-nighter, skip meals, run a 5K on a whim, and bounce back from almost anything. But this decade is not as invincible as it feels. Blood pressure begins to reveal its tendencies. Cholesterol patterns emerge. Cervical cancer screenings catches the rare but dangerous early changes that can alter the trajectory of life. Mental health screenings matter because depression often begins here, masked by the chaos of becoming an adult. The health checks of your 20s are not about detecting disease, they are about establishing the baseline that will anchor every decade that follows. They are the first map of your psychologic psychology before stress, aging, and responsibility begin to shape it. The 30s, the metabolic murmur. Your 30s are a decade of subtle shifts. You still feel young, but your body begins to negotiate with you. Weight settles differently. Sleep becomes more fragile. Stress becomes chronic rather than episodic. You begin to understand that health is not just the absence of illness, it is the presence of stability. This is when metabolic risk begins its quiet ascent. Diabetes screening becomes essential, not because you feel unwell, but because insulin resistance grows. Insulin resistance grows silently. Thyroid checks matter because fatigue, weight changes, and mood shifts can masquerade as just life. Cervical cancer screenings continues because HPV, lung latency can turn a forgotten pap smear into a missed opportunity. The health checks of your 30s are about catching the quiet changes before they become loud. They are about noticing the first whispers of vulnerability. The 40s, the silent risk decade. Your 40s are a hinge point, a decade where the body still feels capable, but biology begins to reveal its long game. Cardiometabolic disease incubates here, often without symptoms. You can feel perfectly fine while hypertension, dyslipidemia, and insulin resistance quietly remodel your blood vessels. This is the decade when screening becomes life-saving rather than merely informative. Mammograms at 40 are not about fear, they are about timing. Breast cancer risk rises sharply now, and early detection changes everything. Colorectal cancer screenings at 45 is not about age, it is about biology. Polyps begin forming years before symptoms. Lipid panels, blood pressure checks, and diabetes screenings become predictors of your future, not just snapshots of your present. The health checks of your 40s are about preventing disease that stolen life and complicated aging. They are they are the difference between a long life and a complicated one. The 50s, the decade of visibility. Your 50s are when the risks you've been accumulating begin to show themselves. The body becomes more transparent. You notice changes in stamina, recovery, sleep, and weight. You begin to understand that aging is not a single event, it is a series of small negotiations. Cancer screenings become central. Mammograms, colonoscopies, and lung cancer screening for those with a smoking history are not abstract recommendations. They are tools that save lives. In this decade, more than any other, bone density becomes relevant, especially for women whose estrogen has quietly slipped away. Taking bone protection with it. Vision and hearing begin to shift, not dramatically, but noticeably, noticeable, noticeably. Subtle changes that affect safety, cognition, and connection. The health checks of your 50s are not about finding what's emerging, not what's hypothetical. They are about staying ahead of the curve. The 60s, the first signs of fragility. Your 60s are a decade of transition. You might still feel strong, but the body begins to reveal its vulnerabilities. Recovery slows. Balance becomes less automatic. Memory becomes more selective. You start to understand that independence is not a guarantee. Independence is not guaranteed. It is maintained. A DEXA scan at 65 tells you whether your bones will protect your scan at 65 will tell you whether your bones will protect you or barely or betray you. Cognitive screening isn't about diagnosing dementia. It's about establishing a baseline before memory changes become confusing. Falls become a real risk, not because you are weak, but because reaction time and uh, perception subtly decline. Vaccines, flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, COVID-19 become essential because infections now carry higher stakes. The health checks of your 60s are about protecting independence and preventing the first fractures, physical or cognitive, that change the course of aging. The 70s, the decade of accumulation. Your 70s are shaped by everything that came before: your habits, your screenings, your luck. This is the decade where the body becomes more honest. You feel the consequences of old injuries, old stress, old patterns. You also feel the benefits of every preventative choice you made you make you made in life. Cancer screenings becomes individualized. The question shifts from should we find it to what to would we to would finding it help you. Medication reviews become essential. Polypharmacy becomes dangerous. Hearing and vision checks matter because sensory loss accelerates cognitive decline. and increases fall risk. Cognitive screening becomes a tool for planning, not panicking. The health checks of your 70s are about preserving function, clarity, and safety. They are about maintaining the life you've built. The 80s and beyond, the decade of meaning. Your 80s are not about detection, they are about dignity. Functional assessments. Can, can you cook, bathe, manage medications become more important than a lab test? Frailty screenings predicts hospitalization, falls, and recovery. Cognitive checks help families understand what's changing and how to support it. Cancer screening often stops not because life is less valuable, but because comfort, autonomy, and joy matter more than detection. Health checks of your 80s are about quality of life, not quantity. They are about honoring the body's limits while protecting its strengths. Okay, guys, I'm going to take a little break and I'll be back on with Dee. Okay? So for now, Gator Wellness, take care, folks.